How's it going, guys, and welcome once again to the Foot and Fist Sports Network. And it is time to talk about the fight fallout from UFC 205, Alvarez versus McGregor. Basically, what we're going to talk about is where each of the main fighters, mostly the winners, but even some of the losers, should go next in their career, what their next step should be. We're going to start off with none other than the Notorious, Conor McGregor, who put on one of the best title fight performances we've seen in a long time. Basically, what happened is he destroyed Eddie Alvarez, who was talking nothing but shit about him, calling him a bum and stuff like that. So he didn't just take his belt, he took his soul. He humiliated him. He absolutely beat him down from the opening bell. He knocked him down 3 or 4 times in the first round, destroyed him once again in the second round until he eventually got the finish. And Eddie Alvarez just looked like he had no chance in that fight. It really did look like a much better fight, like somebody who's world-class taking on an amateur. You know what I mean? It was just that kind of a difference. It was nowhere near a close fight. Eddie Alvarez was completely outclassed. Hell of a fight from Conor McGregor. And if you still doubt the guy, then what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? You cannot deny that the guy is one of the best fighters in the world. And if he continues to do this type of stuff, then you never know. He might be the GOAT if he can continue to rack up wins. Obviously, he's nowhere near there yet. You know, he might be a two division champ, but he's the only person that's ever been given that opportunity. So you can't really take that into consideration too much. However, Conor McGregor is a great fighter, and what he should do next is probably take a little bit of time off because of the fact that, you know, he announced that he's having a baby. So, and I think he said it's supposed to be delivered in May. So that's going to take a little bit of time off of him. And what he should do is wait to see what happens with Anthony Pettis versus Max Holloway. If Anthony Pettis wins, then he should probably fight Anthony Pettis to defend his title. And then if he wins that fight, then he can just relinquish the belt because he'll have beaten the biggest name in that division. Anthony Pettis, having been the lightweight champion and having been sponsored by Wheeze and some big companies like that, he has a pretty big name. Conor McGregor could use that to sell a lot of pay-per-views. It'll be a fun-ass fight. And after that, give up the belt if he does win. Either way, he would no longer be going down to featherweight. So yeah, that's probably what he should do. If not, if he does decide to just relinquish his featherweight belt and defend his lightweight title, then he should fight the winner between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson. Yes, I know Khabib dominated Michael Johnson, but I mean, how can you discount what Tony Ferguson did a week earlier against the former champion Rafael dos Anjos? Yes, Michael Johnson is a great fighter, but dos Anjos was the former champ. So what Kukui did, dominating Rafael dos Anjos for 3 rounds out of 5, you know, that's a bigger feat. That's a bigger thing to do than dominating Michael Johnson on the floor for 3 rounds. You know what I mean? I think that those guys should go at it. The winner is the real number 1 contender, fights Conor McGregor for the title. It would be a huge fucking fight in both chances. The UFC would be a win-win for the UFC, for Conor McGregor, for the fans, for everybody, because everybody would get to see a fun fight. They would make money off of both fights. And hell, you know, you can even put Conor McGregor in the crowd if you really want to bring some buzz. You know what I mean? The UFC can find a way to make it a huge fight, and it would be fun to see. That's what Conor McGregor should do. Let me know in the comments section down below if you agree. Next up, we want to talk about the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Tyron Woodley fight. You know, it was an interesting fight, but it wasn't as spectacular as I would have hoped. You know, when it comes to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, you usually expect a fight with a lot of crazy kicks and stuff like that, but he didn't open up enough. You know, that's exactly what cost him the fight in the end. Now, he didn't lose. It did go to a draw, and they will be having a rematch very soon, according to Dana White. But honestly, I think that was Wonderboy Thompson's fight to lose. That was the fight that he was pretty much the only person that was going to decide whether that fight was a win or a loss for him, or a draw in this case. So I think in the next fight he will get the win, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that fight being like in January or something like that. So hopefully it will be better than this one. Actually, no, not January. I would say probably like February or March. That's already November. I kind of forgot that. So yeah, it'll be a fun fight, I think, the second time around, because I think that Wonderboy, he admitted himself that he did lack the ferocity that he usually shows, and that's exactly what's going to change in the next one. And I think that Wonderboy will get the win, and it's going to be a much better fight than this one was. Now we're going to talk about Yoel Romero, who absolutely murdered Chris Weidman with a flying knee from hell. I mean, that was a great move. You cannot discount what Yoel Romero just did in that fight. Now, in the first round, he did what a lot of times he does, which is kind of just pace himself. You know, he doesn't really throw a lot. Then he starts to turn up in the second round, and then he gets a finish in the third round. That's what he does. That's what Romero does. And Chris Weidman, he did admit to getting frustrated over some of the antics that Yoel Romero was doing. For example, and this is something that happens a lot of times with Yoel Romero, his cornerman poured a ton of water on him between rounds. I think it was between the second and third round. Weidman couldn't take it anymore because even in the other rounds, he was doing some funny shit, you know what I mean? And the referee would always have to wipe him down and stuff like that. So it would take extra time, and Romero would have extra time to rest. And it was bothering Weidman, and he admitted it. He went out there frustrated, and he tried to get the finish, as opposed to sticking to the game plan and just trying to get the win without, opening himself up to Romero's dangerous strikes and stuff like that. And basically, Weidman screwed himself over, went in for a takedown, and got destroyed by a flying knee. One hell of a move. And Romero definitely earned himself a title shot. Jacare Souza was at the event. He looked kind of like he was hoping that he would be in the title fight anyway. But to be fair, Jacare is nowhere near as entertaining as Romero's controversy and his just explosiveness and stuff like that. Jacare is a great fighter. He might even be a better fighter than Romero. But Romero is the more interesting fighter from a fan's perspective, and that's why he's getting the next title shot, which will probably be happening, in the next 3 or 4 months. Him and Michael Bisping had an interesting altercation in Romero's post-fight interview. Bisping is pretty much fucked. I mean, let's just be real. There's no way in hell Bisping is surviving a fight with Romero. He's going to get absolutely destroyed. It's going to be easy as fuck for Romero. And Bisping, your time is up. You had your little title fight with Dan Henderson. You lost that fight. You still have the belt. But this time, you're going to lose your belt. You're going to lose pretty much whatever brain cells are left in your body. And you might even lose your other eye. And that's not even coming from hate from me. That's just the truth. If I were you, I would fake injury and get the fuck out of the UFC right now. Because you, my friend, are in deep shit. Now we're going to talk about Khabib Nurmagomedov, who also put on one hell of a performance as he dominated Michael Johnson in a 3-round ground and pound fight that was just sensational. It's kind of hard to see what's next for Michael Johnson, but we do know what should be next for Khabib Nurmagomedov, and that is a number 1 contenders bout with Tony Elkukui Ferguson. Both guys had very, very great dominant wins in their fights in between a week from each other. So they should take on each other, as they've already been scheduled to fight, I think, twice. The winner should get the number 1 contender spot against Conor McGregor for the title. And what can I say? That would be one hell of a fucking fight. The winner of that would be one hell of an opponent for Conor McGregor. And to be fair, it would probably actually be, if not even in the odds, then definitely probably a favorite. Especially Khabib. I think he has the game plan and the style that could definitely destroy Conor if he doesn't get cracked by punches, which is also a big if. Conor McGregor is such an amazing fighter. And Elkukui Ferguson also has a crazy style that would put Conor McGregor in some danger because he's so hard to finish. And what can I say? I cannot wait to see what the UFC comes up with next. Now we're going to talk about Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who put on a great performance against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. It was a fun fight. I thought it probably could have won Fight of the Night, to be honest with you. It was probably a bit better than Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Tyron Woodley, I would say. Karolina didn't really do a whole lot, but she did break Joanna Jędrzejczyk's nose with a huge punch. I think it was in the 4th round or the 3rd round. And overall, it was a pretty fun fight. Joanna is always very entertaining to watch. And what can I say? Karolina, she's one hell of a fighter. She's sounded very Robbie Lawler-esque. He always says he's one hell of a fighter. But anyway, Karolina put on one hell of a performance when it comes to taking a beating and staying in there and dishing out whatever she could. And she called for a fight in Poland, a rematch. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be too upset about seeing that fight. I think it would be very fun once again. And, I think Joanna would like to have a more decisive win after having her nose broken or something like that. And I think it would be a pretty interesting fight, considering there aren't really any other contenders that are all that interesting in that division. Another thing I would like to see is Karolina take on Claudia Gadelha, and the winner goes against Joanna once again. I know Gadelha has already lost twice to Joanna, but there's just not a whole lot of options in that division, so they make that fight happen. I mean, those are the two options. I want to see Joanna defend her title against Karolina once again in Poland. That would definitely be pretty fun. Last but not least, we are going to talk about Frankie Edgar, who put on a great performance against Jeremy Stephens. And let me tell you, Frankie Edgar put on one hell of a show. So did Jeremy Stephens, don't get me wrong, but Frankie Edgar walked out with the win. It was kind of controversial. It could have gone either way, to be fair. But Frankie Edgar still is one of those guys that is at the very top of his division. It's hard to see what exactly he can do because with Jose Aldo having the interim title, it's hard to give him another shot at Jose Aldo considering he's already lost twice in decisive fashion, in dominant fashion, really, to Jose. So I think that right now, the best chance for Frankie Edgar would be to fight the winner or the loser of Anthony Pettis versus Max Holloway. That would be a fun fight. It would be a fight that would sell, and I think that the UFC could definitely use that as a bargaining chip. If Jose Aldo does retire, then Frankie Edgar could easily get a shot at Conor McGregor if he decides to stay. I don't think he will. So Frankie Edgar could fight the loser of that and then take on whoever wins, like Anthony Pettis or Max Holloway. Whoever wins that fight will be his opponent after fighting the loser, and the winner between those two will be the new UFC featherweight champion. Alright guys, so that's the end of the video. If you did enjoy it, please hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the content coming up. There's a lot of stuff coming out, so make sure you tune in. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think Conor McGregor should do. Should he take a little bit of time off until his baby's born, or should he fight one more time before his baby's born? Also, what do you think of the rematch between Tyron Woodley and Wonderboy Thompson? Should they do that immediately, or should somebody else get a crack at it? Let me know. That is it. I will see you in the next video.